All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. And like I said, I'll be on the lookout for anybody else that may come in here. Mm. All right, so if nobody says anything, then I'm assuming that you can see this screen. If you cannot, let me know. But welcome to the spiritual elements of an intimate relationship. As I said, this is the fifth element that we're presenting, but arguably the most important element. We'll discuss that and see if that is the case indeed. But let's go ahead and let's get right into it. Of course, this is presented to you by the Life Network. This is an idea that I came up with way back, about 5 years ago. And like I said, I had to slowly but surely draw this project out. So it's been a lot of fun. So let's go ahead and let's get into it. So the purpose of this discussion is to bring further unity and understanding amongst men and women regarding the spiritual element of an intimate relationship. This discussion is determined to bring an understanding of how our souls play a part in relationships and marriage. The Life Network's goal is to educate and inform participants about the spiritual component of an intimate relationship. So, really, the purpose of this is to talk about the soul, talk about the importance of spirituality in relationships and what part it plays. And we'll talk about that as we head into the question segment. So the guidelines, most of you know already. It's very, very basic, right? Try to introduce yourself. Oftentimes people forget. It really helps with the dialogue and conversation. So try to introduce yourself when you first speak. Um, Number two, respect participants' privacy. So if they decide to say something, personal, right? We don't want to be out there in the world sharing their business and so forth, so forth. So just respect their privacy in this conversation and out. Number three, do not attack anyone personally, right? We're here to reconcile. We're here to create dialogue. We're not here to sabotage each other or put down the other, right? Number four, do not interrupt when someone is speaking. I know sometimes we kind of mesh, but everyone's grown here. I think we can figure that out and allow people to speak, share time. So with that, if I feel like someone's going on, you know, a 4 or 5 minute spill, I'm gonna politely kind of just tell you, hey, let's share the time and let's get to the next person. It's nothing personal. And then lastly, yeah, excuse my interruptions. So with that, those are the guidelines. So here we are, the spiritual component. This one actually was one of the more difficult ones for me to draw out, because obviously I am soul searching myself and trying to figure out that balance of who I am and what the world is and you know, what that soulmate looks like and so forth. And I'm sure all of you have gone through that experience or still going through it. So hopefully we can all relate. But nonetheless, this is going to be, in my opinion, a lot of fun to talk about. So it's unique. So let's do it. So quite simply, what is a soul? A soul is a moral or spiritual part of a human. It's the disembodied part of a person who has died. So, quite simply, it is how I like to say it's your moral compass. It's your belief system. It goes almost beyond your thoughts and almost is like a vibration. It's a feel, right? It's a frequency. You just feel it. And so really, the second part really talks about the disembodied part. After you pass away, what happens to you? We'll talk about that a little bit, right? Only, as they say, God knows. So, why is the spiritual element important? Well, For one, it creates a shared moral foundation. Two, it strengthens emotional intimacy. Three, it improves conflict resolution. Four, it provides stability during crisis. And five, it encourages personal growth. So those are just some reasons why this element is important. So oftentimes I talk about the chakra comparison in regards to the element that we're currently talking about. I've discussed six previous chakras. If you don't know, there are seven chakras. And I pretty much, yeah, like I said, I've talked about six. In this case, with the spiritual element, I've compared it to the crown chakra, which is basically at the top of your head, right? This is the highest elevation of what you would call a chakra. And so basically, this is the height of spirituality. It is the source of healing, energy, in the human energy system. It is the ultimate center for love, spirituality, and healing. So really, to break it down very, shortly, um, overall healing, when you are one with yourself, when you are one with the world and you're at peace, this chakra oftentimes needs to be open. The heart chakra is very important to even get to this height, but nonetheless, it is very, very important to open your crown chakra for ultimate healing, connection with the source, whatever that is you may believe in. You need to be one with yourself and one with the world around you. So that's the crown chakra. I show this every presentation. I just want to kind of give people a synopsis of what's going on in the dating world and the dating scene and so forth. Not just dating, but marriage as well. And as you can see, this is in regards specifically to the Black population. You can see at the very top the percentage that is married. You could see the percentage that is separated, the percentage that is divorced, widowed, and then at the very bottom, never married. In comparison with all of the US, which is basically other ethnic groups, and we'll see that in the next slide. Um, the Black population is not doing as well in regards to marriage, whether that's good or bad, whether we run by a different system or whatever that might look like. Maybe that tells why, but we'll get into it and talk about it a bit more. This next slide actually gives you a better breakdown of the other ethnic groups. And when you compare the Black population to the rest, you see that there's a higher percentage that has never been married. There's just about a higher percentage of divorced. And you see that there's the lowest percentage that is married. Um, and that's really these statistics is the reason why I even came up with this kind of project was to try and figure out why that's the case. And that's where I came up with these elements. Um, so yes, solution to the spiritual element. Here are some things you can work on that I believe that if you are interested in tapping into this element, right, the spiritual side of your relationship or even yourself, um, one, meditate. Um, by meditate, that is a lot of different definitions. There's a lot of different ways you can do that. However, you might see that, whether it's you strolling through a park by yourself, whether that's sitting Indian style in the house or in a room alone. Um, it could even be listening to a particular type of music, but meditating, giving yourself really some alone time, um, to not just think, but to almost feel, right? To almost forget everything around you. I think that's the point of the spiritual element is to almost forget about the world around you for a second and just kind of be in tuned with yourself. Um, okay, cool. I got a text message, but irrelevant. Two, learn something beyond the planet Earth. this really goes into the spirit because if you know anything about the universe, right, there's more than just Earth. And that goes into really part three, which is challenging each other about the afterlife. Um, it's really healthy to discuss how you feel about the afterlife and what your morals are, because your morals ultimately create. I think there's somebody coming in, and I think that is Brittany's friend. Give me 1 second to bring him in here. All right. All right, so let's keep going. I think Jason's in here, hopefully. Good to see you, Jason. Um, where was I? Yes. So number three, I was talking about the afterlife. It's healthy to talk about the afterlife, and really start to talk about things that you really don't talk about in normal conversations. This really helps to understand the moral compass of your partner. And I think that's what's mostly important. That's why this element is so important. Lastly, um, create space for individual soul searching. It's great to be with your partner, but you can only learn about yourself by sometimes giving yourself alone time. A lot of times people dive into relationships, and then they mold into what their partner is or wants to be. And sometimes you lose yourself in the process, right? So you want to be able to give yourself alone time to almost remember who you are as an individual. It's very important in a relationship to be together and to make decisions together and to grow together. But at the same time, remember to give yourself some time to soul search and be yourself. And with that, that will conclude the presentation segment. I'm glad that I was able to do that in a time manifold way. But yeah, this is the part now where I think this is the fun part, where we talk as a collective now. I have a set of questions as separate from what you see on the screen. Those are just some snippets, but I have some questions that I want to ask. And as you know, it is up to you, the participants, to answer the questions, to educate us on your beliefs, help one another learn. And that's why we're here, right? Is to really gain an understanding of specifically today, this spiritual element. So, with that, I want to start with the first question, and I don't want y'all to be shy, all right? So, let's see what we got here. The first question, in your opinion, what does the soul have to do with a relationship? What does the soul have to do with a relationship? Why is the soul important in a relationship?
For me, it's just about connection.
Okay. And connection to your partner.
Yes,
Okay. All right.
I have the connection. It has to be, some kind of, soul connection. I feel like a connection. It's all around intimacy,
Mhm.
communication. It's connection.
Okay. I like it. Thank you.
Okay, so my name is Abigail, and I feel like it's basically like your life force. Once you find what your soul needs or what your soul requires in yourself, you probably can better pick your partner because you're going to know what you want, what you would tolerate, or what type of person you would want around you.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. It's your moral compass, right? It's almost your temperature, it's your speed. Um, it's 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 what you're comfortable, right? It's like a frequency. Don't want anyone to mess up your frequency. So, almost like Jason right now. I think he's in the airport. But yes, I agree with you, Abigail, 100%. Um, Jason, did you want to say something? I hear you were turning off your mute.
Man, I didn't even know I turned off my mute. I just ran, got in my seat. My bad.
You're good. You're good. No worries. I'm glad that you're here. Um, all
I
right.
do have a little comment since I missed out on most of it, but for spirituality, I'm agreeing with most people. But one of the things outside of seeing yourself on you're a yin, and whomever you deal with relationship wise is your yang, or yin and yang. So you're trying to find someone who spiritually completes you.
Hmm. Exactly. Exactly. Okay. All right. So let me go to the second question if there's no others. All right. So the second question. Um, we talked about the financial, we talked about the sexual, we talked about the emotional, and then we talked about the intellectual. Now we're here at the spiritual. This is very subjective and it's very broad, but is this the most important element of a relationship, the spiritual element, based off the other four that I mentioned? And just in your opinion, is this the most important?
I
Uh,
would say, oh, go
hmm,
ahead.
Jason.
My bad. Let me hit me.
Um, so my name is Brittany, friend of the family. Um, I would say that this is the most important, but it is um together with mental. I think they, I think understanding who you are, how you are, having that awareness, sense of self, um, what you believe in, what you stand for is kind of what creates the foundation of how you move in a relationship. And I think it does work in tandem with mental in order to really get to a place to where you can explain yourself and talk about things. But going back to like the moral compass, it really is like your values, your standards, your beliefs, and everything that you do kind of comes from that place, how you um, manage conflict, how you speak to someone, whether or not you react, whether or not you pause first, all the things. So yeah, I think out of all the elements, it's important, but it's not talked about, and it's not something that we kind of uh are that we know that we are taught. You know what I mean? Like it's I don't know, it's just different for different folks and kind of how they come to that place. But I do think it's very important to the foundation and relationship dynamics. Okay, Jay, go.
I definitely agree with Brittany on this is the most important. And well, I not only say is it the most important, it's the first thing that grounds you for everything else to come in because you need to be spiritually grounded for you to bear the fruits of your labor for everything else. If you're not grounded spiritually, it's very difficult for you, especially from a male perspective, for you to move forward with making your money, choosing the right mate for yourself, so on and so forth. You have to first be spiritually grounded before you can do all those things. And I believe a lot of things you do in life, there is a sequence. That is the number one thing you can do to be in sequence.
Gotcha.
Okay, so I have something to say about that. So I agree and disagree because it depends on everybody's relationship and the maturity in that relationship because not everybody is spiritual. Some person can be spiritual and the other one cannot be spiritual. So for example, I can be spiritual and my husband cannot be spiritual. But as long as my husband respects my beliefs, we can we can pretty much, get along and cohabitate and, love each other pretty much, if that makes sense. What I'm trying to say to you guys with my
Yeah. May
spirituality.
I ask you a question?
Hmm?
I said, may I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
I guess that's a yes. Oh, okay. Uh,
You said yes.
are you married?
Absolutely, yeah.
So would you say that is your exact situation, kind of, sort of? You're one way, he's another way?
So I'm spiritual. My husband's spiritual to a certain extent. And if I want to go more deeply into that background with spirituality, um, as I was raised in a household, my mother was very spiritual. We were raised in the church, going, Monday through Sunday, church, Bible study, um, choir, in church. But my father wasn't into that. He did not step in the church. He was not spiritual at all. And that kind of caused a divide in our family growing up, to where it bumped heads, to where my father wasn't involved a lot. But as I got older, I know that I am spiritual. I'm not as spiritual as my mom was, to where I'm dragging my kids, around up and down in church. But I'm spiritual. We talk about the Bible. I have my own things. I meditate. I believe in chakras. I believe in sounds, things like that. I believe God created all these things for us to utilize. And my husband believes in God. He goes to church, but he's not as spiritual as I am. He's not talk about the things like I do to my kids, but it's not caused a rift between our family and my beliefs or his beliefs. But like I said,
Yeah.
it's about us respecting each other in our beliefs. It does not cause conflict in our home,
Can
if
I
that
ask you a
makes sense.
question? Another question? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, you can.
Another follow-up question. I promise I have. Uh, yes. Uh, can you be spiritual without being religious?
Say it again.
Can you be spiritual without being religious? For example, you say you're Christian, right? But can you be spiritual without being Christian?
Um, I think yes, because um, for me, for the Bible, I interpretate it different. How you might look at it, I might look at it how you look at it. Everybody's views of the Bible is different. And I don't force my views on how I don't try to make you look at it how I might look at it, if that makes sense. So
Understood.
yeah, so it's a tool, but I don't just throw that out like, oh, this is how it, no, so yeah, that makes sense. So
That's
I'm
So,
pretty,
so then when in the Bible it says equally yoked, if you're not equally yoked spiritually or religiously, how do you make that relationship work?
and there you go. It's about, like I said, it's about understanding that person and about communication. And if you disagree, you have to talk about it no matter what. When you're married with somebody, it's about communicating with that person no matter what, and loving that person through their challenges. And if you can't come to an understanding, then why are you with that person? I'm
exact
loving that person no matter what, through
exactly.
the challenges.
Yes, I'm so sorry for interrupting. I wanted to chime in because that is the reason why most people, when they first see each other and they have that initial attraction to one another, right? That first date, that second date, these are the things you want to discuss, is the spiritual element. What are your morals? What do you believe in?
Mhm.
Are you a Christian? Are you a Muslim? Are you Buddhist? You want to get these things out the way. But obviously, more specifically, the younger crowd, right? They're not doing this. It's fancy this. It's, first date sex or second date sex. And, now they're creating this attachment without really even knowing the soul of one another. And so now you see why you have high rates of breakage and divorce rates and so forth, because they decided to not take their time and understand the internal rather than enjoying the external things, right? The fancy dates and so forth, so forth. So um, that is my opinion. I see Brittany with her hand up. Go ahead.
So really quick, because that was a really, really cool dialogue with a lived experience and someone, um, kind of asking questions that align but are a little outside of that. So like spirituality and the soul are not the same thing, right? Like in the sense of you can be spiritual and not be religious. In fact, a lot of people say I'm not religious, I'm spiritual, and it's just their connection to um, an energy, a force, a vibration, whatever it may be, that stabilizes them, right? Or that grounds them. And so, even like in Eastern cultures and religions, it's self that is responsible for um, the self, really, right? Like I don't want to say we because I'm not Christian, but like, well, I'm not religious. Let me just say that. My point is, and what I'm trying to say is that the equally yoked, when Jay said that, that was really interesting because I think that's where things get kind of convoluted, is there's an expectation that we need to be the same, and that's not the case. And you see that where there's a marriage between two people who are, on different paths, but can respect that the other person is doing that because that comes together and that works. And I think that's where the soul comes in, right? Then we're talking about just person to person, human to human connection, right? And it's kind of like it can be in a marriage and a friendship. Like I look at, like, look at me and Dee's relationship. Like we're super tight and we are not the same. Like at all. Like and so yeah, I just wanted to say that, like, I don't think, I think when it comes to spirituality or the soul or the self, if you have ever had or experienced, any type of like high anxiety or burnout or anything that's disconnected you from the present, you will find that there are many elements that are creating you. And a lot of it is also ego, right? It's the ability to zoom out and see yourself beyond what you know and what you're currently doing. So I think it's a very shifting, ever evolving thing that you grow. And honestly, that's how I've always kind of seen religion when it comes to my family members that are religious, is they're constantly growing through God. And so, yeah, I don't know if that's like a ramble, but basically I was just trying to say, like, I think it's such a self journey. Like it is not a thing that we actually need to have in common to um be together, to be happy, to get along, right? Like I don't have to believe any of that to be a good person or to be kind or to love or to hear or to you know what I mean? So,
Mhm.
yeah. I think it's a lot. This conversation is interesting to me. I think there's so much more to it because it's so individual.
Yeah, exactly.
I just want to add in the fact that relationships in today's world have become very transactional. So that's in the lack of basic morals in general.
Hmm.
So I just wanted to add that in. And also, a lot of times when people say equally yoked, like you were mentioning, Brittany, that people think that means coming from the exact same area. I don't really believe in that. I believe so. I'm really big in math. I believe relationships are multiplication. You need to be one whole person, and the person you deal with needs to be one whole person. So equally yoked means being your one whole person, whomever you are, and finding someone who's equally yoked, being as that one whole person. And then you
Mm,
have that synergy when you get together.
Mm.
yeah, for real.
Just
Well, and
FYI, because if this plane takes off, it's going to cut it off. But I just want to make sure I get in my chat real quick. And also, happy belated birthday, Miss Brittany.
thank you.
Birthday.
Um,
Yeah. The
Well,
birthday.
I
appreciate it. All right. Well, you'll hang on as much as you possibly can. And we'll get through these questions. This is one of my favorite questions though. And honestly, I only want two people to answer this because there's a follow-up question to it, and I think y'all will get more engaged. But if just two of y'all can just tell me simply one or two sentences, what is a soulmate?
Wow, I feel like that's so broad. Is that why it has a follow-up?
Yes.
Then I don't want to be the second person.
Exactly.
Uh,
I want to hear Jay, man. I
it,
want to hear Jay.
for,
Yeah.
for me, a soulmate is the person that doesn't necessarily make me whole, but the person or the person that I can't live without.
Mm,
So, for
person.
example,
Mhm.
the person I can't live without. For example, there's just certain things that my wife does just because of who she is that I know I can't live without. Can I live without it? Yes. But would it make my life extremely uncomfortable? Yes. Would I want to live without that? No. So, soulmate, person that you love, you do your best to try to grow with, and you can't live without. And you choose to live without.
Mm,
You know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, we get it. We get it. That's interesting. I mean, okay, look, you should let three people answer this too, because I'm just gonna jump in really quick. I wasn't going to, but I am. It's like,
It's all intertwined, so just go for it.
okay, thanks. Um, soulmate. I really feel like that is a thing that you cannot describe. Like it is such a feeling, and it is such a completion of I don't know how to put that into words. I think a soulmate is like you just you like this person, you love this person, you enjoy this person. They are someone that creates calm, creates ease. Like even if you are like in a disagreement, you see that person, right? Like you're not attacking that. You understand intent. They understand impact. Like I think that's an indescribable thing. And it isn't always tied to a romantic relationship. Okay, that's it. Was that
Hmm.
like two, three sentences?
Okay. So then let me ask this follow-up. Um, and Jason kind of tapped into it, but how do you know that they're your soulmate?
You feel it.
Mm,
Like, how do you feel it? I don't know. Like it's like a if I think about what it felt like, and honestly, I when I describe what I'm saying, it's in regard to like my best friend Tristan. Like it's not even romantic. Like we just get each other. Like there's no preconceived notions. We're not going in with how we feel. We really hear and see. It's just an allowance of being whoever you are. Like you show up, whatever that looks like, right? Like I think that's like that is acceptance. It is also like, yeah, I don't know how to explain that. You know what I mean?
no,
The
but
reason why you can't explain it, the reason why I believe you can't explain it because I agree with you is because you just know.
Right.
You
Yeah.
just know.
You just know.
Like when you know you're the one, you just know. There's no
let
way to
me
explain it. Go
let
ahead.
me challenge you. Let me challenge you, Jason. How do you know it's not lust?
I know it's not lust for me because, hey, as an older man, it's nothing a woman can do that can truly entice me. I've been through that. So I see a million and five good looking women every day, all day.
Mm.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't sway me one way or the next.
Okay, well, objectively
When I
answer
make my
that.
choice, yeah, when I make my choice, I make my choice, and I always stand firm with that stuff.
Okay, Jay, but objectively, like without your experience and how you are, right? Because you are older and you have again lived experience, right? But outside of that, like just in general, how do you know that's not lust? How would one know?
You don't know it's not lust until after you did time with that person anyway. You gotta have time in with the person, because after after the masks come off and the real person shows up, then you make your decision after that.
Okay, let me ask you another question then. So earlier you stated that especially the dating climate now, right, is transactional. So how are we differentiating transactional? How are people, you know what I mean? Like how are we getting there to even know? I feel like there's no lead to soulmates now.
Well, I mean, there is a need to, but you also got to remember, it's hard for me to relate to that degree from the dating scene since I've been off the dating scene for like 12 years. But I can't necessarily truly answer that question per se how you may want. I can only go by me. But even 10 years ago, when I was out there in the street, I knew what I wanted when I met it.
Yeah.
Sounds like you
Like
should.
I already
So,
knew. I already had my prototype in my brain what I was looking for. And when I came, and you never get anything 100%, but as long as it was 20, 80%, and the other 20% were things that I could ignore, then I rode with it.
Mm, mm-hmm,
so let me
mm-hmm.
see. I saw Abigail, you had your hand up.
Yeah, never mind. I was just about to say what Jason was saying. Like, once the mask is off and you see the real person, because you can only pretend for so long. And if they take like most of your boxes, because like he says, nobody's perfect. We're not gonna have 100%. But once it's things that is bearable and you can look past, I feel like you'll be like, okay, yeah, I see myself spending the rest of my life with this person. They complete me. So yeah.
Okay. All
Can I
right.
also add to that really quick? Because that's always curious. The mask, right?
Mhm.
If I don't know how many different things we're talking about here, but like to get obviously people are putting their best foot forward when they are in the beginning stages of a relationship, right? So we're removing the mask. So that means there's some allowance. Hopefully there's some allowance after the honeymoon period of whoever that person really is. And you need to be, hopefully you're with someone that's going to allow your quote unquote real self, right? To even exist, right? So it's curious. Like people are getting in relationships knowing that there's a two part. It's like the first part is the honeymoon period, and then the second part is whatever the hell is left over. Like that's, you know what I mean? And like if we're saying soulmates, I don't think you have that part, right? It's just a
But
continuation.
sorry, can I ask something? What would be the characteristics of a good person? Because you have to start from there. You have to see how they interact with people, how they interact with you. And that's why you have to like take time to know people before you get like really deep down and personal with them. But when you meet somebody for the first time, because I feel like I'm a person who can read person's energy. And like, if I see something 80 out of 100 times, I'm right. So, how would you, if you meet somebody, what would you use to judge that they're a good person or a good partner?
Yeah, I mean, that goes back to what we were talking about when we were saying like your standards, your values, your beliefs, right? You're looking at a person through those lens. So if I am someone who, wants someone who is thoughtful and considerate,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm looking for actions that align with that, right? But I think that's a little bit different than like the mask part, right? Because the mask would insinuate that the person is not showing you their real self at any point, whatever point that may be. So if it has to be removed, not removed, or if it goes away, you're not getting that person. So most of us know how to act right. Whether or not we do that or how we do that or when we do that, that's the thing. Like if I go to work, and I go to I don't know, I'm in a very corporate environment. I am speaking a different way. And some may say it's a mask so that when I'm in another space, I'm doing something else. So it's more of like just in the vein of soulmates. I don't think you go through steps. I think it just is. It's just it's
Mm.
kind of you grow into it, but I feel like initially you kind of just feel that kindred, that connection. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I
Can
was
I ask
just
you a question, Brittany?
what?
Well, first thing, how do you guys get your hand raising? Because I've been looking for that. That's number one. Second question is,
It's the react. It's the
do
react at the
you?
bottom. Hit the heart, and it
I,
should say,
I'll find it when I next meet. My
okay.
question after that would be, do you believe the things that make you who you are at your job are the things that are required in a relationship?
I think there's crossover for sure. I think having first, I've been in my career. I grew up in my career, so part of who I am, and even in to my detriment, my worth and my value is tied up into my work. So I'm fucked. But like, are we not allowed to cuss? I always do that. No, sorry. So
So you identify via
I'm
your
different.
work.
I do to a certain extent, but there is separation, right? Like I have had some really amazing relationships where I've also had ego death as well, where I really had to be okay with what I thought and who I thought I was, not being um not being for me, I guess you could say, right? Like people pleasing and things like that. So, but to answer your question, there is differentiation between the two for sure. But that example was just to say that we do act differently and we kind of know how to carry ourselves. But I think the beginning of a relationship with some people, especially if we're looking at younger folks who are a bit more transactional, they're doing and saying the things that they believe that they need to do to get that person's attention or maintain it or impress them or feel worthy or respect all the things, right? And if that goes away and your true self comes, is that really your soulmate if that person, isn't coming out of that or taking that mask off and saying, okay, now I'm going to be real with you. Are you going to be real with me now that you see this? It just feels like double the work. I don't know.
Let me let me move the conversation because I want to catch Jason before he takes off if he hasn't already, but he had mentioned something earlier
I
where
am moving.
oh, all right then. There you go. So I want to ask this very quickly. Um, Jason mentioned earlier that a soulmate, right, is basically someone that you don't want to live without. All right, simply put. But here I want to ask you, ask everyone. Now, technically, there's just about 8 billion people on this planet. So, if there's 8 billion people on this planet, do you have more than one soulmate on this planet? Or do you just have one?
My personal opinion is no.
You
You
don't
can't
have,
have more than one soulmate. It
oh,
depends on. Are you talking about soulmate as into being wiped up in a relationship, like romantic? No.
well, we just described what a soulmate is. Someone you can't live without. Is there only one
Yes.
person that you can't live without?
I'm taking this. I'm taking you're using soulmate as in the person that you wipe up as a man. No, you can only have one woman.
Mm.
And I'm speaking from my personal experience because I've lived with two women twice. No,
So when pe-
impossible.
so when people get divorced, that wasn't their soulmate, is what you're saying.
I don't know what their situation is to comment.
Mm. Okay.
I have a comment about this. So I think you can have more than one soulmate, in my opinion. I just think you can choose who you want to be with. And that's just my opinion. You choose who you want to love. And you have soulmates and who you connect with the most, who you love the most. And you choose who you want to love. That's just how I feel. And I do believe in past lives and connection. Yeah, that's a different story.
Yeah, same Z's.
It's
Like,
just FYI, if my plane takes off, I just want to tell you guys thank you. I'm heading to see the birth of my first child, and I love you guys.
Oh, that's
congratulations.
congrats, Jason. Thank you so much for being here. Hopefully you can.
Send photos.
Yes, ma'am.
Um, I agree. Is it Chetlana?
You can call me Shay if you like. Either way,
Shay?
it's
Okay, awesome. I agree with Shay. Like, it's definitely you have more than one, and you have more than one in different, I think, platonic, romantic, and I think just human to human too, right? Like, I've seen siblings who are just connected, you know what I mean? And yeah, a soulmate, I don't think that's romantic. I don't think that's solely romantic at all. No.
Okay, that's fair. I think that's fair. Okay, so we got a
Because
couple of
actually,
them.
sorry to interrupt you really quick, because you
Uh,
have the whole spectrum of asexual individuals and they have soulmates. So I'm just saying, just throwing that out there.
yeah, basically.
Yeah. Just to underscore that a little bit more. Okay, I'm done.
All right, I see where you're going with that. Okay, so we have some yeses, but Jason says no, you can only have one. Which is fair. That's very interesting. So Jason, you're with your soulmate.
Yeah, the one that I
Okay.
would marry.
Okay. All right. I feel like that'd be so hard to find.
Yeah, for reals though. You know what I mean? Like what and who and how? Like you just stumbled upon this human and it was like,
Are
yes,
you
you
expecting to be
forever.
married?
Huh?
It's not that I stumbled upon her. It's I met her, we engaged, we dated, and we grew together.
Yeah,
Hmm.
you know I'm playing partial, but
Yes, ma'am.
you know, you know.
Yep.
All right. So if anyone does have any more kind of, I want to stretch this to the next question. Um, and if you don't mind, Daisy, if you can answer this for me, if you don't mind, you don't have to. But what is the purpose of marriage?
The purpose of marriage. Um, yeah, I'll just answer it how I understand it. For me, marriage is something ordained by God. I believe that marriage um, serves as a roadmap to accomplish certain things in my life, in my spouse's life, and in our future generations.
Mm,
And in order for all those things to take shape or form, God had to put me and my spouse together.
mm,
That is marriage for me.
okay. I like that. All right. Anybody else? Purpose of marriage.
I agree with Daisy like that. I do believe in that.
Okay. All right.
I say like tax breaks. I'm just kidding.
Tax breaks.
I
Crazy.
don't know, but you know, I don't know. I think Jay knows this because we talk, obviously, and I think he remembers, but I'm not really keen on marriage. So I
He
don't
is not.
purpose. I don't think there's a purpose for it. However, I I do understand why people get married and the, you know, underlying pieces and all this ooey gooey stuff behind it for sure. So my eloquent way of saying, do you?
Okay. So, and it kind of goes into what Brittany's saying just a little bit, because she kind of mentioned the whole tax breaks, and basically what she's saying is people use marriage, for certain benefits and so forth, so forth. And that could be true, yes or no. But then I would ask, what is the difference between marriage and a life partner? What's the difference? Why get married if you could just be with that person? What's the difference between marriage and a life partner?
Commitment. So you can't walk away. If you're married, you got to stay there. A life partner, you can just get the hell out and walk out the damn door. What the hell are you talking about? Speak the language. I want a commitment. I need
That's
you to
so
stay right
scary.
beside. And that's marriage. A life partner means life. What do you mean life? You can walk out the door and leave me. No, I need a commitment.
That's
That paper. Then you're gonna stay right there, thick and thin. through rich or poor, sick and health, all that good stuff. That's what I want.
I love
That's
that.
Life partner.
yeah.
Kids can be my life partner.
Yes, but not to cut you though, but what if that person decide that they don't want to stay in the marriage? They can get divorced, even though you think it's your soulmate or it's
There's
the paper.
consequences.
See, and that's the thing with marriage. I got into my marriage forever and ever. I've been married for this year will be 18 years in May 12th. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Got into marriage forever. I don't play with marriage. You understand? I went to counseling if I went and got married. And me and my husband, we communicate. And we communicate every day. So guess what? If you want to leave me, guess what? The next bedroom is right next door. That's our divorce right next door, next to bedroom. We're gonna work on this marriage until death do its part.
I
You
love
understand?
that.
This is black love, black marriage. This is forever and ever and ever. We modeling this to our children. You understand? So at the end of the day, when it comes on to marriage, it's a covenant. You know what I mean? We're trying to make sure that this lasts. And that's why some people and young people that they don't respect marriage. All this sister wives bringing somebody into our bedroom. We're not doing this mess. We're
Mm,
communicating this. We're going to talk it out. We're going to agree to disagree. We're going to come to a happy middle. We're going to see how we can negotiate and make this work. That's what a marriage is. It's not going to be happy times. There's times I hate my husband. I want to cuss him out. I might want to strangle him. I want to leave the damn, get out of here. But no, we're going to come back and make this work. That's a marriage through thick and thin, making it work. It's a job. It's a full-time job every day. That's what I signed up for.
that is an incredible mindset. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that whole thing was yeah, I felt that.
If you can't make it work, I understand. You have to divorce sometimes because guess what? If it's unhappy and healthy for the children, then guess what? That's what has to be done. And it's okay.
Daisy, I see your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Car. I want to take us back to where we started, spirituality. So, marriage is an institution that was created by a certain type of people, for a certain type of people. And I think nowadays people take marriage without the foundation of marriage. Marriage is a sacred institution. Marriage is supposed to bond two people for purpose. That's why marriage was created. People want to get married without that foundation, which is why you have divorce, which is why people have different reasons why they want to get married. People say I'm married without, like I said, the foundation of marriage. Marriage is a sacred institution, for a husband and a wife to come together to fulfill a purpose for their lives, for humanity, and for the future generation. Now, people are getting married today, but they're not Christian. People are getting married today, but they don't have that spiritual foundation to what marriage is. Personally, I would say it shouldn't be called marriage. Marriage is for uh, um, yeah, for a certain segment of the population. You know, that's what I have to say.
That's beautiful. Thank you for that.
Um, yeah, marriage is what that means to people. That's I really love what Shay said about like, look, we're in this. And I think going back to what we're talking about and what this component is, um, it's two people saying, I'm going to do this with you. And as we grow together, I'm going to be lockstep. Because I think where the disconnect is people grow apart and not necessarily that they grow apart, but that they stop communicating or understanding or listening, hearing, seeing, their partner in the way that they saw them in the beginning. And I think that sometimes for those who are getting married because it's, the party or, it's limerence or it's lust, right? that's being built upon as opposed to, true care and acceptance of another person. So, um, I don't think marriage is as sac I think marriage is sacred. I don't think in our society right now it is treated as such. And so therefore it has become more performative than anything else. And that's why the divorce rates across just all marriages are so high because you're getting with someone before you know them and you're not willing to know them. And, to Shay's point, when you get a divorce, you're not going to the guest room. You're leaving. You're effectively saying you're cutting it off before you even get a chance to sit with it. I think the biggest thing we do as people that is a disservice to ourselves is sitting with our shit.
Mm,
Like nobody wants to be uncomfortable. And a marriage and a relationship, one you care about, is uncomfortable. So like if you can't do that and you can't do that often or for long periods of time together and apart, yeah, I don't it goes back to it's performative. You're just in it to feel good. And when it doesn't feel good, you're out, right?
exactly, exactly. And that's usually the youth. And um, right, just get a little personal, right? I have grandparents that have been married for now about 60 years. I have parents that have been married for just over 30 years. Um, and in my past, right, I'll share a little bit. I've had a partner, get frustrated over a situation and be like, you know what, we're done. I don't want to do this anymore, right? But then 2 days later, come back to me and say, hey, you know what, I changed my mind, blah, blah, blah. I didn't take that person back. I am with Shay on this. You don't terminate something if you're serious about it. I take marriage very serious as well. Um, and there's so many other solutions where if you need space, maybe you need space. Okay, let's not talk for a couple of days. Let's do the opposite. Let's go get some counseling or whatever it might need. But when you break it off and then you sleep on that and you're done and 2 days have gone by, to me, that's it, right? Because there were so many other solutions to where, okay, you're mad at me, cool. Let's not talk for a couple days, a week, whatever you need. But when that week is finished, we're gonna come back and be like, what's the problem? What's going on? Is this really the direction we're going? Where we're really terminating this thing? Or was this just something that was emotional? Most times it's just an emotional feeling. And that's why they came back 2 days later. But for me, I think just on a personal standpoint, they did not have the same experience as me in terms of marriage and viewing marriage and seeing what that looks like. And trust me, I have seen my grandparents go through it. Um, I have seen my parents go through it. I'm like, how are you guys still together? Like I could have swore this thing was done, and they just figure it out. They'll go sleep in the next room for a day or two, and then they somehow formulate it and just work it out. Um, and so again, I just take it very seriously. It looks like we lost Jason. That's too bad. But congrats to him. But yes, I'm with you guys on that. If there's anything else, I want to go on to the next question though. All right. The next question is, do you need to follow the same religion as your partner for it to work? Do you need to follow the same religion as your partner for it to work?
No. No, I don't think you do. But it's I think I honestly think this deserves a part two. Only because human beings, we're just so complex. What makes us us is like not, you can't just bottle that up or make that make sense or you know what I mean? Like it's not one size fits all. We're not gonna have the same experience. We're also gonna go through things and just feel things differently, right? So to
Yeah.
have the same religion, does it make it easier because you have the same kind of foundational start and pieces? Probably, maybe. I don't know. No absolutes, right?
Mhm.
But I find that there are people who for example, and I'm going to pull this from just a life experience from work because it's separate of me, but I have clients who are married to white male clients who are married to Asian women. And those Asian women are often, Muslim or Buddhist. And that white man is not. You know what I mean? And they're merging the culture and those and everything that comes with it, including religion, into their family unit and raising their children. And those relationships are successful. So I don't think well, I say successful in that, there's no religious fighting. But like
Mm.
um yeah, I think the main answer is I think opposites in all ways, in every way, whether that's um gender, sexuality, religion, spiritual, all the things, financial brackets, all that. Yeah, you can be in a relationship with someone who's your complete opposite. Like that is going back. If you just bottom line this whole conversation we're having, that's a part of being your soulmate. Because none of those things matter.
Okay. Anybody else want to chime in on that? Do you need to follow the same religion in order to work? And I say that because as you know, you see most Muslims with Muslims, you see most Christians with Christians, you see, you know, most atheists with atheists. Um, and I think that goes back to the moral compass and the moral grounding. And I think once you have similar grounding in that, it does help. And I think I got that from Brittany a little bit. But I think it not outside of religion, it's just your overall morals, right? Um, for example, like you might have someone that's into someone committing crimes and being, a dope dealer or whatever, and some people like that, some people don't. Then you have some people that do the 9 to 5 job. Some people like that, some people don't. That goes back to your whole moral grounding in your compass, right? So, um, I don't know if you need to follow the same religion. I'm not here to answer that, but you certainly need to have very similar morals, and a very similar base, before you can elevate into other elements of a relationship. So that's just my opinion. Did anybody else have an opinion? Okay. All right. Let me see. All right. I want to ask the question of, let me see how to structure this. What does it take to stay married for 50 years compared to 5 years? So basically, what I'm saying is we kind of went into it already, but how do people stay together for 50 years? And why is it that some people stay together for only 5 years or even less? What is the premise of that? Why is that the case? How do you stay married for 50 years? Go ahead, Shay.
Okay, I can tell you why. There's two reasons why: communication and sex life. That's the two reasons why. That's
Mm,
it.
mm. I love how that's so simple. I
That's
love
it. Communication. That's
Right?
it.
I love that.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to figure out, like, I have a question. Communication, death, sex, obviously important, but those are the two that make or break like how?
Okay, you know what? I'll tell you this. When your man's mad at you, give him some sex. I think, man, I'm
Oh,
like, I'm
okay. We're back to the basics. We're like cavemen and this shit is what we're doing.
no,
Like,
everything better. And guess what? If you guys are mad at each other, have sex. It makes everybody better. Everybody's happy,
that is
Hmm.
right?
okay.
No
Yeah.
Okay.
problem. You'll solve the problem. Y'all figure out a solution.
Hmm.
Communication, and I'm just being honest with you, intimacy. It
Yeah.
makes it better. So without those two things, a marriage is not going to work. I'm being honest with you.
Yeah. Is that why 40% of long distance relationships end up not working? Because the sex factor possibly?
Okay, so correct. So I'm gonna keep it real with you guys. So, um, correct. And this is by experience. So I met my husband in Florida. I used to live in Florida. And me and my husband, I ended up leaving Florida to come back to California. So I had a great job opportunity, you know what I mean? And it was a great. And he ended up following me. But the thing about it, I was here. He was in Florida. He's a man. What is he gonna do?
Mm,
What is he doing?
mm,
I'm being honest with you. So the
mm,
thing about it is that, I kind of find out later that yeah, he was doing something, but am I gonna get mad after I found, whatever? But I'm not stupid. I'm
mm,
in California. He's over there. You know what I mean? He doing, you know what I mean? So yeah, it
mm,
doesn't work. I'm being real with you. Long distance
mm,
does not work. And guess what? 9 times, well, let's say 8 times out of 10, a woman is more faithful in a long distance relationship.
mm,
Period. They're more committed. They're more faithful. Not all the time. Was I kept faithful? Yeah, I was. Maybe not. I was. You know what I mean? But the point is, everybody has their needs. You know what I mean? But I knew for a fact that no matter what, that I loved my husband, and that's who I wanted to be with. You know what I mean? That's who I was committed to. He's committed to me. But why am I going to cry over spilled milk when we're married, we're in a relationship, and we're on with our life? That makes
Yeah.
sense. We
Yeah.
talked about it. We moved on. I knew he was, where he was getting prepared to come over here. But the point is that with me, I always tell women that, hey, three things I tell women. I say, hey, do not date long distance. That's my opinion. It doesn't work. Okay. I'll say two, never date a man that asks you to borrow money or to like borrow your car. Don't do that.
mm,
Mm-hmm.
Three,
Mm-hmm.
never lay down with a man that you don't see yourself marrying this man, that a relationship long, a future with this person.
mm,
Period. Don't ever have a child with the man before you get married. No, ever have a child out of wedlock. Guess what? A man that you have a child out of wedlock, he can leave you, not come back. And that's why I tell women.
Wow, you should have been here, Shay. You're killing it. Um, I agree with a lot of that. Because I've experienced a lot of that personally. So in terms of long distance, it is it's not good. Unless you have the opportunity to see each other at least once a month. Outside of that, it probably is not going to work. So, um,
Because
I disagree with you guys on that, but okay.
but sorry, one more thing. Because when you're with somebody, I feel like, Carl, is that when you're dating somebody, you should see them every day. If not every
mm,
day, at least 4 times out that week. Because you're dating somebody, your relationship. Why
hmm
not?
hmm Yeah,
You're cool with somebody.
yeah.
That's just my opinion. So I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, you're obviously the sex component is not a joke. That's why I literally added it to this project. It's something you can't ignore. It's ignorant to ignore it. So I'm with you. I definitely understand that. Um yeah, so that's how you stay together. Communication and sex. Very simple. Very simple, but people treat it very difficult, especially the communication part. Um and
That's
that
number one.
Yeah, and that's what we talked about during the emotional element segment. Um, yeah, so that's good. Anybody else have something before I go to the next question?
I was saying that I kind of disagree with you guys.
Mm,
And I'm not saying that the long distance relationships are not hard. They are very hard. But I think for me personally, yes, there is a physical aspect to a relationship, but physical aspect is, I will not say minimal, but there's more to a relationship than sex or the physical aspect.
Hmm.
Two people can be apart physically, but they can be present for each other. Two people can be separated physically, but they can be fulfilling each other's needs. And in this day and time, yes, you may not experience physical touch as often as you want to, but I think that there are other ways that you guys can satisfy each other. And again, for me, a relationship is so much more than the physical aspect because we are okay, maybe because I'm coming I'll say from a Christian background, and I'm talking about marriage. I'm not just talking about dating. I'm not just talking about flirting. A committed relationship is not just physical. That's my opinion.
That's true. I agree with that too.
I think in the case of that, Daisy, I think, right? Um, it just takes a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of discipline from the two parties where um it's so easy to fall into temptation, especially for the youth. Where if
Yeah,
they're not disciplined, if they don't have a understanding of what they're doing in the relationship and why they're in it, um, it can be detrimental, especially if they're not stable in their situation. I will say that much. If you have a person that is unstable in their situation, whether that be mentally or emotionally, or they just simply are their sex drive is just too high, right? Those are the anyone with a high sex drive probably shouldn't be in a long distance relationship. It's probably not doing themselves any favors. So there's different components to that, but I would say it can work, but the two have to be very disciplined and they have to understand the reasoning for their relationship. And it does have to go beyond the physical. So it can go either way, but it just depends on who you are as a person. You have to know who you are. And I think that's the purpose of soul searching and understanding and growing and so forth. So um yeah, anybody else with that want to comment?
Yeah, I I agree with all the points that were stated. I think, you know me, I like to be very open and broad to the fact that we are humans, and I feel like the path that one takes and how they take it and with whom they take it with, I mean, all that's going to be different. But for the sake of this conversation, I think that long distance, to your point, with like a high sex drive is going to be basically impossible unless it's in the same boat as what Jason was talking about, where you believe things like you only have one soulmate and that's your person, and like you're connected and that's the one. I think men complicate. This isn't an absolute. I feel like many men, some men, um, are the ones that make it's a vicious cycle. There's a trust factor. Men are more likely to respond to baser needs uh reactively, whereas women are going to think about how someone feels and how this affects a thing or the long term, Um, tying it back to the soulmate part. You are not generally a person is not going to hurt someone that they are thoughtful about. I have this kind of opinion that thoughtfulness is like just kind of the utmost respect that someone could give you because they are literally thinking about you when they are doing something. If you have a person, whether it's a friend or a romantic partner, who is running their actions and their words and their movements and all that stuff through that thoughtful filter of how it's going to affect you or your relationship or him and how that might indirectly affect you, that that's what's I think that's where all of this is sitting, right? If I'm like, I'm gonna go make something to eat, and I know that no one else has been in the kitchen, and it's around the time that people normally eat dinner, I'm like, you know what? Let me just make dinner for everybody, right? It's the thoughtfulness. And I think that's what kind of also guides what you do and don't do, especially sexually. I think there's a lot of men out there who will stop and pause and say, wait, I'm going to feel some type of way, and that's going to indirectly affect my relationship and my interactions with this person. So taking it just a little bit more, I just think sometimes I think the answers to some of these things are simple, but they're so individual that like overall you're just looking for somebody that says, hey, you matter enough to just not, right? Or you matter enough to just do. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know what that is, but like that feels like a soulmate, like you I care about your experience with me on this planet together, all the things. So I
Mm,
think long distance is totally possible if that's where someone wants to place their energy, and that's what matters.
dig it. Okay. All right. So I'm looking at the clock here and I see I want to respect y'all's time. I basically have two questions. I feel like the last question is kind of just very simple and very unknown. So I'm going to consider it one and a half questions. But basically the last question. Can a relationship thrive with someone that is unhealed? Can a
Ooh,
relationship thrive with someone that is unhealed?
but no. Like, I mean, well, there is, the memes that go around Instagram and all that stuff, because that's where obviously all the good information is. Um, where you do heal within a relationship, but one has to be willing and wanting to heal, right? Um, because you don't have to, and when you say unhealed, are we talking emotionally, mentally? What are we saying? All the ways?
Well, you could say spiritually if you want to say that. It
What
all
is
kind of
spiritually unhealed, though, if that is a very unique and individual experience?
That's a great question. I think to simplify it, I think you just don't even have a connection to your source.
Yeah, but like, okay, yes. And that is, it's like resilience, right? Like, that is not a thing that you just come out the womb and have. Like, you got to go through it, fall, and do all the things. I think spirituality is the same thing, right? Because people grow up and they're like, oh, I believe in God. And these are the same folks who, some of them 50 years later are, living in a tree house and shit, and they're one with the earth, and they're wearing toe socks all the time. So, what is that? I think that's that question that you're asking,
Mhm.
that's tough because that's not, it's a good one, but it's not like spiritually unhealed is almost like what is unhealed? What is the definition of spiritually unhealed for every person that has come across that?
Yeah, we would have to go back to what the soul encompasses,
Hmm.
right? Which is the morals and so forth. So if someone doesn't know their source, almost like I don't want to call out an atheist because again, essentially they have identified their source that they don't believe there is a source or they have some other objective. But it's a moral grounding. Um, so it's like put it simply, right? They say in Christianity, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, lie, right? Those are the basic principles. Someone that does not believe in that or feel that is false, does it connect with that source?
Is a
Would they,
psychopath.
you're right. Would they or would they not be more willing to, um, quote unquote, be more destructive or toxic in a relationship because they don't have those simple principles down, within themselves? So unhealed is basically to put it in terms that we understand modern, like, can you thrive with someone that's toxic? I think that's kind of where I'm getting at. Can you thrive with
Mm.
someone that is toxic? Um,
No,
I would say no.
no, no. And don't even try.
Okay. All right. Was there anyone else on that question? Because I have a very interesting, unique question at the end here. I guess just for something for you to think about and take home with you. But if you feel free to answer it, be my guest. But the last question is, do you believe that you will see your partner in the afterlife. When you're gone from here, will you see your partner in the afterlife?
I don't know what I'll see.
Same.
Like she said, I'm not sure what I'll see, but I do hope I will see
Yeah.
this person in the afterlife. And again, it all depends on what you believe in. Maybe some people don't believe that there's an afterlife,
That's
but I
correct.
do believe that after this there is heaven or hell. You know, yeah, that's it for me.
Okay.
Hmm. Yes.
You say, yeah, you'll see them.
I'll see something. I don't know what, but I'll see. I'll see
Okay.
that. I believe in God. I really do. I do believe in a higher power. I believe, but I'm very spiritual also. I believe, that God made all these things for us to partake, the sounds, and things like that. I do believe in demons, all that stuff, but I just yeah, I just feel like there's only one judge, you know, and I live my life as in, I do things in good faith.
Mm,
I Yeah, I just do things as God would do. That makes sense. I ask forgiveness. I'm not doing things to ask forgiveness per se, if that makes sense,
hmm
but try to be a good person, you know, and God is my judge, if that makes sense. Is there a hell? There probably is. I don't think I'm going there, you know. That's why I said that everybody interprets the Bible differently on how they should live their life. That makes sense. You
Sure.
know, in the day, I just hope that in the day there's a good place for everybody after death.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say.
Got it. Abigail, I saw you were unmuted for a second.
Yeah, I'm not sure what we're gonna see in the afterlife, but from what we've heard from multiple different sources, we're definitely gonna see God. So I don't know about our soulmate, but
Hmm Yeah.
yeah.
It's almost like what are the what are the stipulations, right? Right. If you kill someone, are you going to hell? If you steal, if you steal a candy bar, right, are you going to hell? If you lie, which we've all done probably in the last 30 days, I would assume. What does that entail, right? What kind of lie does that entail? What kind of stealing? Self-defense, right? Is that included in killing? Um, it's very subjective, so I don't know exactly what the answer is, but um,
What is
we,
the afterlife though? Like what when I say what's the afterlife, right? Like
that goes
who,
back to your source, right? You have
right? Well, but I mean, what religion are we talking about, right? Because it's a little different about what is
yeah,
expected on the other side or how to whatever the
uh,
rules and regulations are for getting there. However,
that's
I'm not religious.
yeah.
So as far as like what happens next, you know, I feel like when you on a spiritual tip, go figure, and you feel like a kindred connection with someone or you have experiences of consequences or sorry coincidences also known as can also be known as deja vu. I think that's a tap in to a time um before you. So I do think that people show up and may show up in later years or have shown up in past years um because this crazy life, like, we do not know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it can really be a beautiful thing of, you know, some
Yeah,
of those experiences we can't explain.
sure. Sometimes the unknown is best to be unknown.
Oh yeah.
When you tap into religion, right? They all have their different philosophies of, Christianity is just the heaven and hell. The Muslims, I think they proclaim you get X amount of virgins. If I'm not mistaken, if I'm incorrect, forgive me, but there's just different. What happens to the atheists, right? All those types of things. So it's just something to think about. But with concluding that, thank you so much again for being here. That is the five elements. So I'm really excited that I was able to create all this material. The next move is to package this material and have cohorts of 5 weeks where every week we would come in and discuss all of the elements. So just stay tuned for that. I would prefer to have someone sponsor this project and, make it more convenient. I would like for this project to be in person, in different regions. I think that would give it an effect to be there in person as opposed to just online. But I'm gonna keep tapped in with everyone, as I usually do. I'll pretty much be talking to each of you very soon, actually, regarding different things. But just look for me to reach out to you. Um, and just thank you again so much for being here. I appreciate it. I'm gonna respect your time and get you guys out of here. In a the word slipped. Starts with the A. But anyway, get out of here. Thank you so much. Ample. That's what I was looking for. Ample time. But anyway, get out of here. Thank you so much for being here. Feel free to reach out to me. And like I said, I'm going to be tapped in with all you very soon. I actually need to talk to each of you in here individually about different things. So you'll be hearing from me very soon.
Well, thanks for inviting. Love these. And can't wait to see what else is happening and doing all the in-person stuff. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. All right.
Bye, everybody. Nice talking to
Um,
everybody. Bye.
Yes, nice talking
Bye.
to everybody.
have a great
Bye.
night.
Good night, everyone. Bye.